we really think? I mean,
I
get the opposite impression of coming off of a game like that. As hot as the Cowboys were, and the Steelers having kept coming back in that game, showing that they're every bit as good as the Dallas Cowboys. That game turns on a fluke play at the end type of play. You get the face mask call in there. I think the Steelers should walk out of that one saying we're just as good as anybody else in the NFL right now. We're going to be absolutely fine. And in the division that they're in, they're perfectly fine. They don't have to worry about a wild card. They're going to win that division.
All right, Des Bryant lost his father, MacArthur Patton, and he really dedicated his performance. 6 catches for 116 yards, including a 50-yard touchdown. When he's on, he's one of the best in the game.
He really is, yeah. And most teams have one guy like that really is outstanding, but he's one of the premier one guys that you can have. Seems to somewhat have straightened out his act a little bit, kind of flying on the straight and narrow a little bit more and becoming more and more of a kind of an individual team leader for the Cowboys.
All right, before we get to Pitt football and college football, one more thing about the NFL. If you watched the the Sunday night game last night, it was an incredible performance. 2 teams who were in Super Bowl 49 came down to a goal line stance. This time, Seattle got the best of them, but Rob Gronkowski, the Gronk, superhuman in the minds of many, took a hit from Earl Thomas in that game. It's just trending now. He actually punctured his lung after being hit. Make no mistake, I love this sport, but it's a rough way to make a living.
It sure is. I mean, and that guy is a beast. If somebody can puncture the armor, so to speak, to get to him, you know how hard these guys really hit him. If you ever have it, I'm sure you probably have had that opportunity to be on the sideline of an NFL football game. The hits, the collisions that those guys go through, it's almost like you feel these guys should not be subjected to this type of terror.
All right, listen, one other thing, you got the Monday Nighter tonight, Giants, who've won 3 in a row, taking on the Bengals. And as you said on the Coos Market Black and Gold Sunday show, we were walking the line with Ted Arnaud, picking our weekly winners and losers. You think that Marvin Lewis is about to right the ship?
I do. I believe in Marvin. I think he's a good person. I think he's a good football coach. He's really strapped with some guys that are different walk of life type guys, and he does everything that he can to kind of straddle them and rein them in order to make them winners on a football field. So I do get a little bit of a concern about maybe the Bengals can straighten that act up and give the Steelers a run. I think both the Bengals and Steelers are better opportunity or have better opportunities to win this division than do the Ravens.
All right, Corey Seager just announced the National League Rookie of the Year for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and of course we here in New Brighton, Jack Libertroy grew up with that family. His son Adam is a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers and doing very well for himself as a left-handed relief pitcher. But 22 years of age, and he had a pretty remarkable season, batted .308, and let me tell you something, 72 RBIs, 26 home runs, that's pretty doggone good.
You know, the Dodgers, that legendary baseball team, and having a young kid like that coming up and through. It's good to see, though, instead of them just going out and acquiring somebody else, at least they've got somebody coming somewhat through their system who's a rookie of the year and should be with them for really a long time.
Real quick, Cleveland Cavaliers. They're the team to beat this year?
I don't know that they can. Yeah, I guess they would have to because they're the champions, but you still have those guys out there in Golden State that are still pretty strong.
Yeah, Steph Curry and company out there, no doubt about it. Now, let's move on to high school football, and this is going to be a unique couple of weeks because as we roll into Thanksgiving next week, usually that's when they're playing everything at Heinz Field. Little different scenario. Explain to the audience.
Yeah, because of the new classification system where you have now 6 classes, the top 4 classifications are going to play their championship game this coming weekend on Friday at Heinz Field. And they've really cut a nice break. They're going to have 65-degree weather for that game or for that day. That's a really nice opportunity for them. And then you have only the semifinals in the single and double A classification, so that then you get into the PIAA playoffs the following weeks to end up getting to the ultimate state championship. But there are some good football games coming up.
Yeah, and 2A and 1A will play their championships next weekend after semifinals this weekend at Joe Walton's Stadium, of course, Robert Morris University. And Wednesday night, Ronnie Shiro back with a vengeance. The Panthers on a roll. Riverside will join me and Jim Equals from the Beaver County Times at the historic Beaver Falls Owls. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one broadcast you do not want to miss. Okay, that's coming up on Wednesday. Now, as far as the games, they begin at 11 o'clock in the morning. All sorts of exciting things happening that day. The Quips in Beaver Falls will start it off in the 3A championship game. What do you like?
But they should have just played that one down the street, Ralph.
Hunky Alley. We were going to play in Hunky Alley.
Why are they making those guys go all the way up north? You know what? Who do I like in that game? I don't know that I would ever choose a team against Aliquippa, as good as that history has been over the years. I think that might be, again, now, they had to resurrect themselves a little bit, having to come through after the tough loss and the tough week that they had during the Clareton game.
They got a big defense, though, with Donovan Jeter and Malik Shepard, who's a heck of an athlete. And I know Coach Manning's got his Quips ready. This is going to be one because Ryan Matzook's a great young coach. And by the way, speaking of Matzook, we wish Rochester the best of luck. Gene Matzook, their coaches, they remain undefeated, and they're headed to the semifinals as well in 1A. Now, after that, in 5A this weekend at Heinz Field, McKeesport and West Allegheny. How can you go against Bob Calca?
Yeah, I don't know that you can. I certainly would not. McKeesport coming off that miraculous play, maybe the high school play of the year in the country, where they had the Hail Mary, time's running out, Hail Mary, but they're not in the end zone yet. Kid catches the ball and has to then lateral the ball to a teammate who then takes it around the rest of the pile and into the end zone. A classic college football, or high school football play.
4A, Billy Turpin, the Jaguars of Thomas Jefferson, and the Canes of Newcastle.
Yeah, and that should be an interesting matchup with Newcastle, because they don't get that local exposure. We don't know them as well as we know TJ and those guys. So that's going to be one that should be an interesting matchup. Obviously, with Thomas Jefferson and the history they have of always getting to the Heinz Field, even though it's a new classification, maybe you give them a little bit of an edge because they know the circumstance.
All right, Frank Augustine, make me an Augustine pizza, and we'll talk Lindy Laurel, and then we'll talk about this wonderful football game. I love the folks in Newcastle. And the big one, 6A, late at night, Heinz Field, Friday night, Terry Cotton, Central Catholic, and Seneca Valley. Upstart Seneca Valley coming off that big one against NA.
Yeah, really upstart, with Seneca Valley having won their game against North Allegheny last week, having blocked an extra point that after a touchdown that was scored on the last play of the game. Really an exciting game. They may have a little bit of momentum to ride into this game. Central coming off of a huge win over Pine Richland, so it's going to be a matchup where you have one team with like fresh momentum as opposed to Central, who's coming in and they're the bully on the block right now.
You know, sometimes they say the good old days are the best, especially when you think about the history of this place. But the old BCS days would not be good for some of the teams that I'm going to mention. If we were still doing it that way years ago, their seasons would all but be lost. Clemson lost this weekend. Michigan, Washington, all in the top 5 got beat. Of course, Alabama, Lou Saban, they just continue to win. And you've got Bama also clinching the SEC title. So the Iron Bowl pretty much is null and void right now.
Yeah, but you know what, Rob, I'm a little bit disappointed in the voting that went on this week. You had 3 teams in the top 4 lose.
Right.
None of them dropped out of the top 8. And it's befuddling to me. It used to be if you lose late, you can't get to a national championship. That was the Cardinal rule. You were out. Those teams, Michigan only goes from 2 to 4, and they lost to an unrated team. How does that happen? How can the voters justify that and keeping a Penn State out of that, keeping the rest of that top 8 out of the top 4? It's just really unfair.
All right, let's talk about, and I know Duke Milladine was a big Pitt fan, and we always were talking Pitt football down here. It's Pitt Duke Saturday at 3 at Heinz Field. Daniel Jones for Duke threw for a touchdown, ran for one, 28-27 win over North Carolina. They've got losses to Louisville, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech. So this is a good Duke football team.
Yeah, it's absolutely a good Duke football team. Honestly, I'm still walking on sunshine from the victory over Clemson on Saturday, but you got to regroup. And they talk about you can celebrate for 24 hours. You get rid of that, and now you got to move on to the next game because you're only as good as what you're doing the next game. And Pitt's got to really regroup because it is important. Duke's coming off of a victory against a top 20 program just like Pitt. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. They need 2 more wins to really solidify what, it was a great win Saturday. If you lose your next 2, you lost all the momentum.
Take a sip of that Stony. They're killing me. All right, listen, as he takes a sip, the Pens 10-3-1 play Alexander Ovechkin 9-4-1 Wednesday, Verizon Center. Crosby's got 10 goals, Ovechkin's got 7. Let me throw out some names, just give me your thoughts. Phil Kessel.
Surprisingly speedy to me. I really like. Everybody talks about him being such a veteran, but the speed that he has, I like Phil Kessel.
Okay, also Connor Sheary.
a kid that, because of where he came from last year, being a call-up from Wilkes-Barre, I like the momentum, the grit that he brings to the game.
Evgeny Malkin.
One of the best players in the history of the National Hockey League, but he's always been living in the shadow of Sidney Crosby, a guy that's accepted his role a little bit right now and really contributing greatly to maybe a Penguins dynasty.
All right, now it's time to talk NASCAR and the Ford EcoBoost 400. Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines. Homestead, Florida. Joey Logano, Shell Oil Car 22, raced to victory in the Can-Am 500 in the desert of Phoenix yesterday. Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson second and third. But as the chase is near, Harvick out, Kenseth out, Busch out, and Denny Hamlin out. Maybe the most difficult sport to be successful over a long period of time because all of these drivers are amazing.
And everybody keeps coming after you. There's always that young buck is coming up after the other guys, but yet once you get established, you can kind of stay in the race. So it's hard. That's a real crowded field to become really good at.
And don't forget HPO, boxing, pay-per-view. Order it, order it, order it. You got the Russian powerhouse, Sergey Kovalev, who's 30-1, putting his WBO IBF title, light heavyweight title on the line against Andre Ward, an exceptional talent who brings a perfect record of 30-0 into the ring. More on that later in the week, but it will be one for the ages, so don't miss it, okay? And now for the agent. He is Greg Diolis of Diolis Law and Vantage Management Group, and yours truly, Rob Pratt. My Pratt Pack, much love to Jay Woolley, his wife, and everyone celebrating 80 years of being in business, and here's the 80 more. Good night, everybody, from Woolley Bull.